thank you very much. Sorry for keeping you waiting. We are back into our second session of this discussion. Our guest is Mr. Elijah Bonyo from the Joining Forces Alliance. You can find us on social media at Collins Orono on Twitter, at Mtoto News on Twitter, at Joining Forces, the Joining Forces Alliance on Twitter. And Bonyo, you mentioned your Twitter handle probably?
At Edi Bonyo.
Yes, karibu sana. So, Mr. Bonyo, I want us to look at the figures now. But before we go into the figures, and coming into the role of these two bodies that we have, the department NCCS and the Department of Children's Services. One of the roles of the Department of Children's Services is their role is to oversee, plan, and coordinate child protection programs and services. Right? Then we go to NCCS, is supervision, which is the key role. Do they supervise the implementation of those services?
Okay. The evidence of supervision or review or evaluation can only be found in an annual report. So as to whether NCCS is providing supervisory services or as to whether they're doing it effectively, I would say that in this country we don't have an annual status report on children matters that can show us clearly all different rights, all different services in one document. So you'll find education data in the Ministry of Education, you will find health data in the Ministry of Health, and water data in the Ministry of Water. So NCCS, in my view, should be leading a process of generating a national annual status report on children matters. That way, we're able to see what they're finding out from their role in as far as overseeing child services from across the country. So I think we have a gap. So I wouldn't say they're doing their job very well, because as it is now, the evidence of a good job would be an annual report that is specific to what they have been finding out and the recommendations. Another gap we have is that in this country we have the children's policy, which is not as comprehensive and integrated. So if we get to review the national children policy, then to provide clearly what needs to be done by who on children matters, then NCCS then will be overseeing policy implementation. That's what I would say.
All right. Thank you very much. And from the 2019 census, we have about 46% of the population in this country are children, and that is translates to around 22 million children that we have in this country. And now the question that I have is why do we give not even why is it that we don't have even a ministry for children? We have a mere like unit.
Yes. I hear you, Collins, and I'm happy you are putting the figures before us. Yeah. Department of Children's Services is responsible, like you say, responsible for child protection and other children services. Yes. Meaning, they have a responsibility to provide protection services to that number, over 22 million. So we need to ask ourselves, if there's a department that has a responsibility to ensure protection services reach over 22 million, that's reason enough to make it a ministry. So in my view, let's separate education as a service. Education as a service. So you have basic education being provided to over 22 million children. If you take all that number, of course, the ones in school are less than 22 million, fine. But it is a state department for early learning and basic education providing services to children. If you take all the children in school, I think they could be close to 18 million thereabout.
Yes.
Then we have a Department of Children Services providing child protection services to 22 million.
Yes.
Remember, the child must be guaranteed safety and security for the child to go to school. Now, the protection we are talking about here, child protection services starts in the community household level. So this department should be equipped with personnel and resources to guarantee safety and protection to these over 22 million children. That is the only way this group of people we are talking about will get to school.
Okay.
So I agree with you. We really need to, this is an advocacy agenda in my view. We really need to ask ourselves, does Kenya require a specific ministry for children matters? Does Kenya require a specific state department for children matters? The answer is yes. Remember, every year, the Constitution provides that the head of state should be giving an annual report to Parliament on how the Republic of Kenya is complying to international obligations. Now, some of those international obligations is UNCRC and the African Charter. Now, for the head of state to provide a comprehensive report on the situation of children in as far as compliance to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child is concerned, then NCCS, for example, needs to have been enabled to collect data in all aspects of children's rights. Then Department of Children Services should have been enabled to guarantee services throughout the year.
Okay.
So in my view, we really must go that direction, and I would be happy if this happens.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Now, as we continue, I want us to look at the documents and the figures involved in the budgeting for children. And with me here is the Social Protection Culture and Recreation Sector Report that was released late last year, 2020. And I want us to look at some of the things that had been budgeted for. And I will, of course, be able to mention on whether they were achieved or not. But before we go there, just explain a little bit about this sector report on protection and culture, recreation.
Okay.
Yes.
So a sector report provides, let me put it into two parts. The first thing a sector report does, it provides the previous achievement.
Yes.
And achievement here, it provides both programmatic achievement, the outputs you achieved against your targets. It also provides for expenditure against approved estimates, meaning if you had planned to do certain things and you had certain resources committed to that. So as you show what you achieved by numbers, for example, number of people you reached, it's also supposed to show you the amount of money you spent against what you allocated. And the Treasury has done a very good job to give us access to these documents, and of course the Office of the Control of Budget. So now we're in a moment in the country where you are able to see how much money was allocated to every government ministry, department or agency. Then you're able to also see what they used with that money. And there's a report from Control of Budget that shows you how they spent.
Okay.
Now, the second bit of the sector report, it gives a proposal for the next financial year. What you propose to do and how much you want to spend.
Okay.
So you'll see a section that shows you the next financial year. What are your plans? What are your targets? And what resources are you recommending? Are you proposing you should be given?
Okay.
But remember, like I said, it's against the previous longer term plan.
Okay.
Now, in the Social Protection Department, it's a state department.
Yes.
So in the report you are looking at, I'm sure you'll be able to see there's a social protection as a state department. Now, under it, you will not see Department of Children Services.
Yes.
Reason being, the way the sector report is done, in every state department, because of program-based budgeting, now you begin to see programs and sub-programs.
Okay.
So if you look at the document you're talking about, you will not see Department of Children Services. You will see State Department for Social Protection. Then you'll see Program 1, Program 2, Program 3.
Okay.
Now, you have to be very, 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 how do you call it? You need to analyze it further and ask yourself, okay, child protection services, under which program does it fall? Once you analyze this child protection services, under which program it falls, then you check which delivery unit has a responsibility. Then you check what are the key outputs for that department,
Okay.
for that program. What are the targets year 1, year 2, year 3? Once you finish the targets, then you now check how much money has been allocated to achieve that.
Okay.
So you have to start from where are we coming from. So the question was, what was planned, what has been achieved, and it's you who has the report. So I don't have that often.
All right. But also just to explain, maybe just to let our viewers know, is that we have we are looking at the financial year, the planned targets. That is the planned targets for the financial year 2017-18, then 18-19, 19-20. Then we're also looking at the achieved targets from that the same years. So we are not looking at the 2021-2022 budget or the targets for the same year, but we are looking the previous years up to 2020. Okay. Now let me understand something here, Mr. Elijah. When you look at this document that I have here, there is a family care services provided. Okay, and you'll find that the number of stakeholders trained on the AFC guidelines. AFC, that is, stands for
Alternative Family Care.
Okay, Alternative Family Care. The target was 120. The plan targets were 120, for example, in the 2017-2018 financial year, and what they achieved was 120. Then you look at 2018 and 2019, the target was 180 and they achieved 120. Okay. Then you look at the 2019-2020, it's the target was 200 and they achieved 200. What does this mean? Does it mean that the goal was achieved by the department? These are just figures that we are just here for us to see.
So whenever you come across data in a sector report, the details obviously came from the unit or department concerned. Now, if it is a training consistently over several years, then the fundamental question we need to ask ourselves, why training every year? Because a training is supposed to achieve a particular objective.
Okay.
So we need to ask ourselves, is this training necessary every financial year? That's the first thing we need to ask. The second thing, who is being trained? Are they duty bearers to mean government officials? Are they civil society? Are they community members? So I think there's a problem with the way the output is phrased. And then when we talk about numbers, for example, we talk about training 200 people. You know, the country has 47 counties.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure whether they meant 50 people per county or 20 per county. So those details sometimes should be available at the department. But if you have it at that level, training on, was it training on guidelines? I think there's a missing link, because after training on the guidelines, we should show why are we training people on this guidelines, so that they do what? The training should be a contributor to something else. So we need to interrogate what was the outcome, what are the outputs, because training is more of an activity level.
Okay.
So the 200 people that were planned to be trained and they were trained, I can't say that If it is training, we only see the numbers. So if you have time, you may want to visit the department and ask for training reports. Now, when you look at the training reports, then you may get the right answer to that question.
All right.
Yes.
Now, there's another one here. I can see the number of children adopted. And there is one very, I can't understand how this happened. Because you look at 2017-18, it's 240 children were adopted. 18-19, 240. Sorry, these are targets. These are the targets. And 19-20, that is 300. Then when you come to the achieved targets, you get the targets 2017-2018, the target was achieved. 2018-2019, the target was achieved. Now, when it comes to 2019-2020, it's 45, and the target was 300. Now, the reason here, or the remarks, is that target not achieved because COVID-19 crisis limited rescue of children. Now, my question is, COVID-19, the first case of COVID-19 was reported in March 2020. The financial year started in July 2019. So between July 2019 and March 2020, so this is what we were able to achieve, 45. And the reason we are giving is COVID-19. Yet we only had how many months? From March, we had April, May, June to hit the target. Now, what does this tell us?
I think, Collins, next time in this show, make sure you have the department.
Yes.
Because some of those questions, I may not have the right answer. I cannot give a comment.
Yes.
So let me give my comment. As you say, the financial year started in July 2019.
2019, yes.
So by the time we had the first case of COVID in Kenya, we were actually in the third quarter of the financial year 2019-2020.
Yes.
Now, meaning the first quarter, there was no COVID. The second quarter, there was no COVID. The third quarter, we had COVID in the third month of that quarter.
Yes.
So it means April, May, and June, the reason given is that they didn't achieve the target because of COVID. But you see, COVID was an emergency, and still is, situation
Yes.
that required that we do much more.
Sure.
In any case, the numbers that of people or children that required to be supported or protected or rescued when we got COVID should have been more.
Yes.
That's my view.
Yeah.
But the author of the document is the department, and that's their reason. So maybe there are good reasons as to why that's their reason.
Okay. Yeah. Now, the other thing here is we have the children participation in legislation matters affecting them. And the comment here is the participation of children improved. And I want to give you time here. Just explain to us, because here they have mentioned that the number of children participating in the Kenya Children Assembly forums was 48 in 2017-2018, and the number was the same for 2018-2019, 2019-2020. Now let's understand this. By 48, is it 48 children or 48 assemblies?
Okay. Number one, I want to tell you, I've looked at all the government budget documents for many years. Over the last, let me give 2018 to now, all government budget documents, right from the State Department level to Treasury level, including what we have here, there is nowhere where child participation has been budgeted for. So when you report that child participation was achieved, I'm surprised that there is no report of how much money was used on that. like I said, you know, you cannot report on what you didn't spend money on. This is a budget document we're looking at.
Yes.
So for me, I'm wondering, we don't have resources that were allocated for child participation in all these documents. So we cannot tell how much was approved for child participation and how much was spent. But we have numbers that were reached. Now that's for another day. The 48 numbers, I want to imagine maybe they meant the assemblies.
Okay.
Because we have over 22 million children. Even if you want to put the number that was to participate to be 50% of the population, that's over 10 million. Are you telling me that in the entire country for 1 year, we're only reporting that 48 children participated? I don't think so. But if they meant 48, there could be 48 children assemblies. Now, children assemblies, if we start the lowest level, we have 1,450 wards in this country. So if you're to talk about participation at the ward level, then the least we expected would be 1,450 ward level child participation platforms.
Yes.
Then you go to the sub-county level. Now, something again we need to clarify. We have 290 constituencies, but we have more sub-counties.
Yes.
We have some constituencies that could be having 2 sub-counties. So once we get from the ward, we go to the child participation platforms at the sub-county level. What numbers were they? Then we go to child participation platforms at the county level. Then you come to the national level.
Okay.
So that's an area that you may want to,
we
want to follow up.
Yeah, so this means that we haven't been giving children enough forums to participate on issues that affect them.
Okay.
Going by these figures.
My friend, yes. The thing is, child participation, for us to provide evidence of child participation, and I heard you talk about child participation in certain, I don't know whether it's budget or legislative matters.
Yes.
The evidence on child participation, number one, you're supposed to look at, are children aware of their right to participate? So when you're doing an annual report of this level, you're supposed to be talking about the proportion of children in Kenya, boys and girls, including children with disability, who are aware of their right to participate.
Okay.
Number two, how many then had a chance to participate, and in what? There's participation in the community programs, a community event.
Okay.
There's a participation in school program. There's a participation in planning. There's participation in budgeting. There's participation in policy making. And there's participation in law making. So all these categories, we must be able to see how children are participating in all those categories. Okay. And what is participation? Are they in dialogue with government? Are they presenting memoranda? And the issues they present, we need to see, in 1 year, children raised these issues on policy processes or legislative processes, and this is the feedback they were given. So the gap we have in the country, I don't think this budget will cure it. We have to cure, first, we must have a national integrated child participation framework. Then develop a national child participation plan. Then cost that plan and develop an M&E framework for child participation. Now, once we have that, we can now talk about evidence as to whether children are participating. We don't have evidence that children are participating.
Okay. So I think I understand some of the organizations that you represent, the joining forces, under the joining forces, conduct child participation. What kind of participation do you guys conduct?
Okay. Go back to what I said. We have participation in school program. Mm-hmm. We have participation in community events. We have participation in budget making. We have participation in policy making. Okay. We have participation in legislative processes. Separate the effort of a non-governmental actor
Okay.
from the effort of government. Now, government by its own documents are not showing that. So that means there is no evidence. Now,
Okay.
But whatever we show you, whatever we explain to you, the case studies we share with you, are the things we are saying we have models on participation that are working that government should adopt. So from the non-state sector, different agencies will give you evidence of their effort on child participation. So joining forces, we have evidence of child participation from our perspective.
Okay.
Government, I'm yet to see evidence from government on child participation. That's what I mean.
So here they have mentioned that child participation in legislation matters affecting them improved. They have said
Okay.
it improved, though they haven't told us. The government hasn't told us improved from where.
Okay, Collins, I want to try and explain to you the challenge we have.
Yes.
I don't know whether there's a disconnect between Department of Children's Services to this reporting process. I sit here, I know for sure that the process of developing the children bill, children were participating
Okay.
in a legislative process. But that which me and you know, I don't know whether you know, but I know,
I know.
there is no evidence in this report to show that.
Okay.
So we have to ask these questions like you're asking. So we must see in an annual report that children participated in the development of the children bill. Then we score, we are doing very well. So in our own spheres of engagement, we could be seeing some of these things.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So one of the areas that I know for sure, and I'm wondering why they didn't write it.
Yes.
Children have had an opportunity to participate in a legislative process, specifically the development of the children bill.
All right.
But they have
all right.
not written it, so I don't know why they're not
So
writing
we don't
it.
have the specifications. All right. So we'll come back and finalize on this part where we're going to show you the areas that we really need to need to be worked on, especially on meeting targets. We only see figures, but there are no specifications. Where are the specifications? This is up to the NCCS and the Department of Children's Services. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.